Love of parents. Like every child, parents were the whole world to me. No blessing is bigger than the loving parents. But in my case, it was more than anyone else, and you will know the reason soon. I was the apple of my parents' eyes. I never remember that they had ever put off my demands. Even sometimes these demands became a burden on them. Moreover, she cut off all relations for our better future and came to a big city for our studies. I have not seen many relatives of mine coming to our home except a few ones. Our means me and my younger brother, who was 5 years younger than me, and I was quite different in appearance, of which my dad gave the reason that I was taking after my grandfather, who we had not seen because he had died before my birth. One thing my younger brother always complained about was that our parents listened to me more than him, and I assured him that was not the case. I showered all my affection to him to compensate his thoughts. When my college days started, due to an increase of expenditure, my mother started sewing clothes at home. The days passed, and I did my master's and got a job. Now the circumstances had started changing, and after years my younger brother got a job too. It was our desire to give utmost happiness to our parents, for which they deserved. The first shock came when my mother got her first heart attack. We took her to the hospital and her condition was very serious, and the doctor said to pray for her life. What? So early she had not seen happiness till she was intensely working to get us set in life. In my madness, I complained to God not to let my mother die, or I would not worship Him again. God loves His creatures, and He knows the inner feelings of everyone. Now I sometimes remember that it was my foolishness, but love knows no boundaries, and that passion has also been created by Him too. At last doctors announced that my mother was recovering. Then after a week she opened her eyes, and I could not describe our happiness at that time. We took her home, but we noticed that she had started doing things in haste. She found a girl and fixed the date of my marriage, over which I protested because it was too early and I want to be set in life. But all my protest went in vain before her tears. I asked her what was the matter with her. Then she told me when she was in the hospital and was fighting for life. Then she saw her grandparents, who had died long ago, came to her and asked her to come with them. Then suddenly they said to each other, "Not yet." The orders were to let her live for 3 more years to come. She said that she had 3 more years with us. We were in shock, but to put things off from her mind, we mocked her sometimes. "How many years had left with you, mother?" And she told the exact time left after the incident had happened. Then I was married, and I have not seen her happier before. She seemed angelic in her happiness. She was very fond of becoming a grandmother and wanted to have my first baby in her arms. But the will of God prevails. My wife conceived after 6 months. Over the news, it seemed as if my mother had been flying in the air. She never let my wife work and gave all the instructions how to take care of herself in this condition. And my wife told me that it was strange that Mom asked her to lie down and started caressing her womb and kissed as if she were kissing her grandbaby, for which she was very much certain that my first baby would be a son. Exactly 3 years later, and 3 months before the birth of my first baby, she got the second attack. The words were still resounding in my ears. "Son, I will be with you for 3 next year, and you must take care of your younger brother and never feel him alone." I knew this time I would not be able to take her back home, And now I was mature enough to understand the will of God. Despite all the efforts, we lost her, and we never thought that one day we would visit her grave. After 3 months, God has bestowed a son to me of him I knew before. I was weeping bitterly in the hospital, and the people were astonished how a father could weep so bitterly over the birth of his first baby boy. One day after 5 months, when my only uncle visited us, I asked him how come that very few relatives of ours visited her funeral. How could they become so cruel? What mistake my parents had committed? First he was silent, but on my continuous demand, he told me the things which I could not believe. He said that I was not the real son of my parents. It was then she went to a hospital for her routine checkup for why she had not conceived. In those days, someone left me in the hospital. The lady doctor asked my parents to adopt me, for which they instantly agreed, but asked her to keep the child only for 1 week, as they could arrange their shifting to another city, so no one could know the reality, but she only told my uncle because he helped them in everything. She loved my uncle very much, and he was the source of her informer who told what was going on in the family. After 5 years, she announced my birth through my uncle so no one would be able to doubt that she had adopted me. And distance lessens affection. That was why less relatives visited us. I was stunned. He asked me to promise that this secret would be secret forever. And I was proud of my dead mother, and became a servant to my great father, and people give examples of us as brothers. I only heard that love knows no bounds, but I am the living example of it.